Welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast, episode number 15. My name is John Bunn, and today I'm joined by none other than Nick Miller. Say hey, Nick.
What up?
We exist to help connect wedding videographers with others that can help them grow their business and get better at shooting weddings, all while improving the wedding industry. I am based in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Nick is based in Wichita, Kansas, and by some random acts of fate, we connected to shoot a wedding together, and the rest is history. We are so excited about the incredible feedback we have had with the How to Film Weddings podcast in a few short months, and have already been blown away by the incredible community of wedding videographers that not only encourage us, but are happily agreeing to be on our show. On today's podcast, we are joined by Matt Johnson. Matt and his wife Rachel run Film Strong and live in Dallas, Texas. They create stunning films that are not only beautiful, but are constantly pushing the limit of creativity and quality. He also created whoismatt.com and has amassed over 150,000 followers on YouTube with tech tutorials, behind-the-scenes videos, and business advice. He has grown an incredible business and beard and continues to wow his couples with his approach to wedding films. We're excited to welcome Matt Johnson. Thanks so much for being on, Matt.
Did you write that? That is so good. I need to put that on my website as a third-party intro or something like that, third-person intro.
Yeah, Matt, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Before we really jump into the meat of the conversation, why don't you give us a quick rundown of your story so far, how you got into filmmaking and all of that stuff?
Well, I was born in 1987. No, I'm not going to go back that far. I feel like my start in wedding films is similar to, most wedding videographers out there. It's not like... there's people that feel like, they're like, oh, this job was a calling in my life. I was told this from the beginning. This is not how I really feel about it. It wasn't like, oh man, it was my calling. But since I've fallen into it, it's like, it felt so right. And so it's been really, really good. My parents bought me a point and shoot camera in 2006, January 2006, started playing around with that. It had a 12-minute recording limit. Not 12 minutes, oh, this is the memory card says. 12 minutes, it's full. That's your whole video. So I started making really dumb YouTube videos and junk like that. And I think, Nick, you started around that time, didn't you? 2007, something like that?
That was, I started back then.
That was John.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, sorry. It's hard for me to pay attention whenever I listen to the podcast yesterday. And it was I don't know which name it was. There's two hosts, so it gets...
Yes, the one that's been around and super old is John.
Well, I think you guys started and you had a little tape camera. My second camera was recorded to mini DVDs.
Whoa.
So
yes, that's awesome.
Yes. I then moved on to a Canon 7D, which was awesome. But I still used that DVD recording camera for multiple weddings, just as a backup third camera. I never actually used that angle, but it was nice. It just made me feel good to know that I had it. So basically started in 2010, a girl in one of my classes at Texas A&M was like, hey, I'm getting married. Will you film my wedding? And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay. And so she very graciously was like, okay, well, I trust you. I think you're talented. Good luck. And charged them $500. And I think I used a Lifehouse song for the wedding film. It was this is going to be it.
That is so 2000. Was that 07? Was that what that was?
That was 2010, actually, when I shot my first wedding.
Lifehouse.
Yeah. Classic romance.
And so that was 2010, you say. And you tell me about that wedding. What was that like? How'd you shoot it? Who did you shoot by yourself? What was going on there?
Shot it solo. It was here in Dallas at the Marty Leonard Community Chapel. I've since shot there a few times. I ended up not eating for 9 hours or drinking anything, I think. I just ran around in really uncomfortable shoes. Thankfully, the photographer was super patient with me, and just running around in my bright polo shirt that I was wearing. Best part is that I think he was like, yeah, you should buy an on-camera LED light. And I'm writing down notes oh, this is really good stuff. I need to do all these things. Okay, great. I didn't do that, thankfully. But I think I delivered it was a solid hour and a half long wedding film. Don't really want to do that again.
Full feature film presented by Matt Johnson.
Exactly. Oh man. So then like that also continued, filmed a lot of weddings. And then in 2015, I had a friend of mine who was getting into video more. And he said like, hey, you're really good at explaining things to me. Like I love hearing your explanations for like camera stuff and video stuff. Like you should start helping other people with this. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I don't know. And he's like, no, do it seriously. So he like kept pushing me. So finally I'm like, okay, like I've made some educational stuff before randomly on my YouTube channel. Like once a year, I'd be like, here's a video. I finally sat down and was like, okay, let's try this out. And so I started making, like educational tutorials and things like that for wedding filmmakers specifically. So that's where like I started making a video about the Sony a7S II. Mm-hmm. I reviewed that and that kind of blew up in a good way. And I was like, oh, there is a market for this. Like people do want to see stuff like this. So I just kept going in that direction. And that's kind of where we are today.
Nice. So that was 2015. You started doing the tutorials. You owe your friend who helped you or told you to get going. You owe him. And so when was the A7S II review? Was that right after it came out or?
Yeah, it was about 2 months after it came out. It came out in October, I want to say. I shot, I think 3 weddings with it in November. Mm-hmm. And I had a review done for it by like early December.
That's huge.
So it was a pretty quick turnaround.
And so you put it online, you say it blew up. What does that mean? What happened?
Well, you know, in starting out in YouTube, you know, anything that like anybody's searching for and you're like, people are actually watching this. This is great. So I think it got like 10,000 views in like a month or two. But I was like, this is insane, you know, because like I went from literally like, you got 25 subscribers per month or something like that. You know, it's like nothing to like, I was getting like 30 a day or like 50 a day. And I was like, oh man, this is great. If I keep going at this for like 10 years, I could be like 100,000 subscribers or something like that. Like consider growth curves, something like that. Oh, right. Okay.
So you put that video up, it starts getting bigger. You're in the middle of still shooting weddings and things like that. How'd you go about just kind of like while you're at weddings? Did you say, oh, this would be a good review, or how'd you schedule that? Was it just kind of random? How'd that go?
Yeah. It was sort of, I don't know, creating YouTube videos. I have actually just like a notepad list on my phone, and it has hundreds of ideas that I've come up with. Like I'm the guy that like, if I have an idea in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and like write it down, fall back asleep, and then wake up the next morning. I'm like, why did I write, you know, biscuits or something like that? Like this has nothing to do with anything. And so I always had ideas for things. And then also like people would comment and be like, oh, hey, what about this? And so I would make videos about like that people were asking for, and then also like that were relevant to me that I thought that I would want to know. Because I'll say this, a lot of my tutorials and stuff like that I've made, a lot of it is because I had a specific question about something and no one else had made something about it yet. Or I found the answer by like digging through like a forum post, like, you know, 30 comments down. Somebody's like, here's how you do it, blah, 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 you know, and you're like, why isn't there like a more easy way to find the answer to this? So I started really aiming at making tutorials and stuff like that that were pointing like to answer that question. It's funny because people are like, oh man, this is so helpful, like your camera settings video or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, I still go back and review that myself. Like I'll forget how to do something, and I'm like, these videos are as much for me and my like poor memory as they are for like other people. So that's pretty fun.
You know, I switched from Canon to Sony for like 2 months. And you are a big person to blame for that, because I watched your Sony a7S II videos and I watched all your color videos, and I bought 3 a7S IIs. Excuse me. I bought 3 a7S IIs and I shot 2 weddings with them. And my wife looked at me after the second one. She goes, I hate this thing. And so you know, now my advice, what I learned from that, and then I sold them all and I bought 2 C100s and I lost like $1,500 in doing all that. And now my advice to everyone is whenever you want new gear, rent it.
Yep.
And that's what I learned, probably the hard way, the expensive way, but to say your tutorial was very good and very convincing and did a good job of making me buy something that I thought I needed.
I've had that happen a lot. I taught at the Venture Workshop this last November, and I had like, it was funny because the people that came up to like greet me, a lot of people like knew me from YouTube or something like that. And they came up to greet me. And the majority of them were like, you've made me spend so much money. I was like, oh, thank you. Glad I could do that. Okay.
Yes, I've watched a lot of them too. And I think the heart that I see behind it and what you're saying, which, is like, you're really filling a need and like helping answer a question by serving, the community. And like, that works the same within YouTube as it does with our brides and our grooms. Is like, what can we be doing? What are the people asking for? What are they looking for? And how can we fill that need? So, I mean, going through and saying, oh, I don't know the answer to that. I know that, for me, I've been doing this a decade plus, and I still like will jump on and find your YouTube channel when I'm going to export a video when I'm not at my main computer or something. Be like, how did he do that? And just the detail, the tech side of things, I'm not the best at. And so it's like having a trusted person or a voice that is like, this guy knows his stuff, has really, it's very valuable. And like, you've created this market for yourself and for your YouTube channel, and it keeps growing because you're doing that. So,
thanks, man.
I was going to say, that like those videos, how are you going about like, do you learn this stuff in school? I know you said you're researching and digging through forums. I mean, some of these more technical videos about lighting or audio, or like, it just seems like I watch your tutorial and I'm like, oh, that makes sense now why that does what it does. Is that just a natural thing for you? Or are you like schooled in that?
I would say that as somebody that like was decent in high school at like most subjects except for like math and things like that, and as somebody that really enjoyed more the social aspects of college than the actual classes themselves, I've always been about like efficiency, and I really hated, classes, for example, where it felt like you take a whole semester just to learn like one nugget of information or two nuggets of information. And I feel like YouTube has really democratized a lot of the learning process, whereas before, like take it with wedding films, for example. Back in 2010, when I was getting started, like if you wanted to learn how to film weddings, you would either just like figure it out on your own, or you could maybe attend like a still motion, like traveling workshop class whenever they come around. Ray Roman was doing a few classes, I think, and there wasn't a ton of other like options as far as education. And so seeing like YouTube and then like Craig Adams, and he created like Wedding Film School, and it was like, oh man, there's this huge like influx of people that are learning just for free on YouTube, and it's still possible to like monetize it and stuff like that, which is cool. But I always felt, see, this is where I'm starting to go off on tangents again. You guys got to catch me here because I'll start talking about something over here. Reel it back in. So tying it all back to that, whenever I am making a video, it always comes down to what kind of videos I like to see myself. And like what I like to see on YouTube is how quickly can you tell me this information and then leave me alone, basically. Like that's great. Like personality's awesome. That's great. I feel like, for example, there's like Peter McKinnon. He has some really, really great videos, but at the same time, he does more like vlog style videos. So he will bury in a 15-minute long video, there'll be some nuggets of information in there, but you got to watch all the slow-mo to get to those nuggets of information. And nothing against him. I think he's super talented and awesome, and I love watching his videos. I am on the side of saying, okay, like, can I just get those nuggets of information as quickly as possible and then put more personality at the end, or infuse some personality while doing it? He is far more popular than I am on YouTube, so clearly I'm doing it wrong and he's doing it correctly. But my point here is people want information quickly and efficiently. And if I can do that, that's great.
That's awesome. Well, if people haven't checked out your YouTube, it's Who Is Matt, correct? That's where it is.
YouTube.com/whoismatt.
And so every day I go, every time I check back, you've got 3,000 or 4,000 more followers on there. It's been pretty cool to watch it grow. As a numbers guy, I'm like, yeah, go Matt, go. So,
well, I want to say that I want to compliment you guys also, because I was so, I like when I started, it was literally like Craig Adams was making stuff for Wedding Film School, and there was me making stuff, and that was it. Like there wasn't anybody else really doing a ton of YouTube educational stuff. And then podcasts started popping up. There was Wedding Film Academy. And then there was, I think Bobby Burns started Wedding Film University, or University of Wedding Filmmakers. Now there is Christian Nachtrieb from Brighter Lights Media. He has University of Wedding Filmmaking.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm really glad that you guys started this and you did not go with like an educational, like some sort of school or college or, like trade school of wedding video.
Community college.
I've joked. Yeah, I've joked about it. I wanted to have like Wedding Film Community College, and it's like, here you go. You want your basics? Get them out of the way here. Oh man. So I'm glad you guys went straight up with like how to film weddings.
That was all Nick.
Like so simple.
Was Nick. He got down to the point with it.
Pure SEO.
Exactly. Okay, I want to move on and talk just kind of, a lot of our listeners have been doing this, 5 years or less. There's a lot of different, demographics, I guess so, but like anyone that's kind of new, you're pretty far into this, you're teaching people this. Just what kinds of things do you constantly see new people asking you? What kind of advice for someone in the business that's new would you have?
Oh man. There's a whole lot of, I don't know. I'll say this. A lot of my, let me start over there. I just had to burp. Oh man. You can cut that out, Nick. Or leave it in. I don't care.
Leave it. I'll add in a louder burp.
Just laugh track it in there. That'll be good. A lot of people that are just getting started, they will comment on my videos. They'll email me or something like that. Or I've seen it on forum posts, for example. A lot of people, whenever they're starting out, they think they need to have all the gear right away. Mm-hmm. And so I've had people ask me, should I take out a loan? Like I'm thinking about taking out like a loan to buy all this camera gear. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Dang it. Cause, what you'll often find is that, like Nick was saying, you'll buy a whole set of cameras and then you realize that you hate them. And you, so renting is really big. First of all, like always rent your stuff ahead of time. I have had lenses that I thought that I would love. I thought, oh man, I'm going to buy these Zeiss Milvis 24 millimeter and 50 millimeter. And it was the 50 millimeter and the 85 millimeter. And I'm going to be in love with these things. They're going to be Nikon mount. They're going to work great with my Canon, or with my Sony, through the lens adapters and things like that. And then I got them and I ended up like hating them because the focus throw was too long and they were like reverse focus because they're Nikon mount. So completely threw me off. Ended up hating those lenses. So glad that I just rented them instead of buying them. So I would say if you're starting out, don't take out a loan to buy camera gear. Rent camera gear before you buy it. And I was a poor college student when I started out. So I literally like had bought a Canon 7D with like some old FD lenses and I think a tripod. And that was like the extent of my gear kit for like a year. And the benefit of that is that I got really good with a tripod. And then I got like a monopod and I got better with the monopod. And then I got, it took me like, I think I was like a year and a half before I finally bought a glide cam. And I dreamt about having one for so long. I'm like, I would need a glide cam. It's going to be amazing. Finally got one. But it still was years and years of like practice and things like that as I built up gear over time. So that's kind of resulted in like a Frankenstein gear kit of like, well, I've got these lenses and these adapters and it all works together fine. I know how it works, but I look like a psychopath whenever I show up with so much gear. But that doing it that way for me especially was a way to not go into debt starting out, and that was really helpful.
That's good. That's real good advice. So definitely on the gear side of things, that's something we've talked about is for sure. In the debt side, I'm a big anti-debt guy. So on the business side for people that are just getting going, how would you get going? Like, what'd you do to get going? What'd you do to like start booking weddings and all that?
Yeah, I think I had a slight benefit in that I was still in college. So what is everybody doing in college, especially toward their senior year? Getting married, getting engaged. So I had a pretty steady stream of friends for several years that were getting engaged and getting married. And even to this day, I still have friends that are like, hey, what's up? I'm finally going to have you film my wedding. And I had girls and guys that I knew that were like, hey, will you film my wedding? And I'm like, you're not dating anyone right now. And they're like, well, yeah, but like when it happens, like I want you to film it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, we can do that. So I definitely started off very cheaply, just to like build a portfolio and to also gain experience. So first wedding I shot for $500. I think the next wedding I'm like, oh, I'm going to throw it out there. $650. I think it was like really, really edging things up there. Continued doing that for, oh gosh, I think it was like a year and a half before I broke like $1,000. And I remember the first time I made I pitched it to this couple in this coffee shop. And I was like, hey, yeah, so it's going to be $1,500 for a wedding film. And they just kind of looked at each other and like, okay, great. Yeah, sounds good. And I was like in shock, like dancing in my, oh, it's happening. Oh my gosh.
We're going to be so rich.
Exactly. Looking back, it's like, I'm sure that barely covered like any of my costs to even like do business, you know, but at the time I'm like, this is insane. People are actually giving me this much money. I'm robbing them. Oh my goodness. I delivered like, I want to say it was a 45-minute long video, but the couple had seen an hour-long video that I'd made for another couple. And so I believe it was the mother of the bride or the mother of the groom complained and asked me to make the video longer. So I did, because I like threw another B-roll that I had. But it was still just like, that was ridiculous. I don't even remember the question where we were at, but it was insane.
It was, you answered the question. It was kind of how we get how to give advice to somebody that's like the business side of things.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice is to, a lot of us, I think, forget that we need to learn the basics when we're starting out. And there's so much focus on the DJI, gimbals and the drones and all of that stuff, which is really cool stuff and enhances and makes your films that much cooler. And as Ray Roman says, the eye candy and all those kind of shots. But in reality, if you don't know how to expose, if you don't know what shutter speed is and how to manipulate that, and if you don't understand lighting, like having a super expensive, $5,000 camera or gear, that doesn't matter if you don't know how to use it and how to work it. And so starting off with a small kit with only a tripod or only a monopod or, something really small and broken down. And once you get good at that, then that only helps your foundation for whenever you want to grow your business, especially if you want to do this something, full time in the future, as a source of income, to provide for yourself and your family and all that.
Definitely. I would say one other thing for people starting out, and this was really big for me. It's really easy whenever you're starting out to be like, oh, I'm going to second shoot for a ton of people. And so you think, oh, I need to like apprentice under someone. I need a second shoot. And so the only con of that is that if you exclusively second shoot, then you're never editing your own work. And then you're never seeing where you're bad. So for me, my learning was very much like, okay, I just shot this wedding. I now have to make it work. And then I'm watching through and I'm like, why did I move the camera right there? That was a perfectly fine shot. Why did I refocus that? Why was my white balance off? And so I would go into my second wedding or third wedding at that point with a list of like 50 things that I could do better. And I have found that whenever I have had second shooters in the past, or I've known people that have second shot that only second shoot and they're not editing, they're never progressing and getting better in their shooting because
that's a really good point.
You don't have to sit there and be so mad at yourself in the editing bay. And you're like, okay, so if I reverse this shot and I flip it horizontally and zoom it in 200%, I can make this work. For 3 seconds. Okay, I've done that.
Yeah, I think, and that's true. I mean, my first wedding I ever shot in 2007 was a handheld JVC Mini, a Vario 7, not even 720. I mean, it was 4x3 or 3, but whatever it was. And like,
Hey, people are paying extra for 4x3 now, and all that. That's coming back.
Well, I've still got I don't have the camera, but like just getting back into the edit and being like, what in the heck was I thinking? That really did, just going through it. And I think that like today we see people's, Instagram feeds and Facebook feeds, and it's like this, you're seeing these people that have been doing this for a long time, and it's like their work is so good, and oh well, if I buy that gear, I'll shoot like them. And it's like, I mean, some of my favorite wedding videographers, Fiore Films, or like she's just killing it with composition and light and a tripod. I mean, and it's beautiful. And so, I would encourage the listeners to like just hone in on the craft, learn the fundamentals. Some of my favorite weddings are the ones. I did one for a friend of a friend a month or two back, and it was just me. I didn't bring my gimbal. I didn't bring my drone. I brought 3 lenses and 2 cameras and audio and lights. And it was like such a great day. Like I got so creative and like really enjoyed it because I wasn't so worried about like getting my second shooter to balance the gimbal correctly and all the things. So, there's nothing wrong with a humble beginning and a start, and we just see it all the time. People, oh, well, I charge this much or do this. And it's like, dude, if $1,000 is what you need to charge for right now, just so you can get better, like that is okay. And you will get there. I mean, we hear all these people on the podcast and they're charging $5,000 or more for a film. And it's like, that's great. And we've earned our way up to that point, but it's fun to hear from, people about where they've come from.
Yeah. One thing that I've been saying for a while, and when I specifically talking to, new people that may be just getting started, is it's really common. And I know I did this when I first got started. I was watching so many like Joe Simon and Rob Adams and, some of these guys that are like, the older, really good people that I looked up to, 8 years ago when I started. And I was like, man, I just want my stuff to look like that. And the problem is I was comparing myself shooting one wedding to someone who had shot 100 or 150 or 300. And so my first film isn't going to look like someone's 100th film. And you need to like realize and understand and know where you are and maybe take things and learn from them. But, try not to compare yourself to them, because that is definitely a thief of joy and will totally kill your creativity and make you feel like crap.
You slipping a Bible verse in there,
if you just
Nick?
keep on doing
I think
that.
I slipped one in there. I like it. I love it.
I don't know. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of harkens to what John and I have kind of been talking about a lot lately is, just kind of recording your numbers, especially, the number of bookings that you had in a month, or Facebook followers, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. But just like keep an account of, this is what I had at the beginning of January. Now at the beginning of February, this is what I have. And just kind of seeing that progression is, a confidence boost. And so, yeah, that's a great exercise. We'll challenge our listeners to do that. Go back and watch your first video or your first few, and then watch your most current one and see the stuff that has changed and see the stuff that has made, a difference in your product. And I'm sure that you will be surprised with yourself. And I remember thinking like 6 months in, I filmed this video and I was like, this is the best thing that's ever made. Like, this is amazing. And then I'm sure if I watch that now, I'd be like, this is utter crap, but that's kind of the path of the artist, I guess, is you'll end up hating your own stuff eventually and move on. So another thing we want to talk about, you do this full time, right? Like the whole, wedding video stuff and YouTube and teaching and all of that stuff, it's your full-time gig, right? So what would be your advice? Someone that, wants to eventually get to filmmaking full time. What would be maybe some steps that you would recommend to get there to do that?
One of the biggest things that's helped me is, especially when I was starting out and like growing and getting better, is it was rare for me to turn down a shooting gig when I was starting out, because I feel like whenever you're starting out, you don't know if you're going to enjoy weddings or not. You don't know if you're going to enjoy commercial work or not. You don't exactly know what your niche is going to be, because if you say, oh, I'm filmmaking, I do it all. Like, it is very rare for me to meet a filmmaker that does everything and does everything well. So when I started out, I was shooting music videos. I was shooting photographer promos. I was shooting weddings. I was shooting corporate commercials, like just everything. And that worked well for a time, because what I found over time is that I actually really did enjoy weddings. And there's a lot of filmmakers that I've talked to that reach out to me and say, oh man, I'm getting into wedding films. I just bought a whole massive gear list of stuff and I'm about to go film my first wedding. And I'm like, oh, why'd you do that? Because you may end up hating it. Like, you may end up like 3 weddings in and you're like, this is the worst thing ever. What have I done? And that's very easy to happen, because weddings are definitely not for everybody. It's a very high stress, one time only, like make this work kind of job. And so a lot of people find suddenly they're like, oh man, I actually do like corporate work better or something like that. And so without you doing all that variety of work, you're not going to know that though. So try out a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I actually left my full-time job a year and a half ago to do this. I was a youth pastor for 11 years. And whenever someone talks to me, the biggest thing that my recommendation when it comes to, are you ready or not? You never know. Like it's just a leap of faith in yourself and, your belief system, whatever it be, to, go on and decide to do this. It did help because I had 2 jobs. I could save up. We had a pretty big nest egg whenever I left that job. So, I really like that. My wife was a photographer before she joined me full time. And, maybe like 3 years in, she decided all I'm going to do is weddings and seniors. And I was like, why are you like limiting the amount of work you can do by only focusing on these 2 things? Mm-hmm. And you can actually make more money and run a better business if you narrow your focus.
Yep.
Rather than just have this shotgun approach and film everything. So that's great advice. If you kind of figure out what it is that you want to do, and then go in and do that, so then for whenever you're going to try to be full-time and you can run it that way.
I was going to say too, Dave Ramsey, big fan of him. He always says, like, get the boat close to the dock before jumping in. Get the boat as close as you can so you don't fall in the water and get wet. And so like that. I
heard that in his voice too. Like, get the boat close to the dock. Okay. Okay, right,
Dave. But, the advice is true. I mean, I did the same thing. I was working at a church and like I had enough weddings on the books to say, you know what, like I've got a few months of time booked up here. I can, the boat is close here, I can make this transition. I've got a 3 to 6 month window to get it going and make it work. And so, with that, I was able to like quit my job and like start sailing in the boat. I was going to ask too, so it's 2019. The year's right in front of us. We're all very excited about the year. For Film Strong for you this year, I mean, what kind of goals are you setting? Like, are you setting a number of weddings, a price per wedding? I mean, what kind of things are you thinking about, as a seasoned pro, on the year for 2019?
Yeah, definitely. So the birth of the impending birth of baby number 1 has kind of put it's interesting because I have the option of paternity leave for a while, which is nice. So we've actually opted to not film weddings for like a 6-month period.
That's awesome.
Essentially.
That's so cool.
So yeah, because Rachel and I shoot weddings together. And so we made the decision of saying like, okay, well, you're about to be in your 3rd trimester here. You're in your 3rd trimester now. We decided this a while back, but it's like, you're probably not going to be wanting to film weddings being that pregnant.
Yep.
So we cut back on that. And so we literally have babies due in March. We have one wedding that we booked before we found out we were pregnant in April that I'm going to film with a second shooter friend of ours. But otherwise, we don't have, we're planning on not taking any weddings until like July or August, I want to say. And so that's, simultaneously, I feel like this ties back into the freelancer stuff earlier, where it's like get the boat close to the dock, build up stuff like that. The issue is, I feel like even whenever you've been doing things for like 5 or 6 years or 10 years, there still is that little voice in the back of your head that's like, but what if nobody ever books you again? What if you just are poor? And you're like, no, please, it'll be okay. So it is like, I still feel nervous about that because, okay, we built things up, like things are good, but we're taking like a 6-month period where we're like, okay, we're not going to be filming weddings because I want to focus on my child and like being a present father, which that's crazy, but something that we really want to do. And so I don't know, I feel very blessed to have a job like this where I'm able to say like, okay, I'll take 6 months off. That's fine. Like that's crazy. Cause I don't feel like a lot of people get the opportunity to do that. That's really great. On the flip side of that, I still have YouTube and I still have every interest in continuing to make a lot of YouTube videos and educational stuff while this paternity leave is occurring from weddings. So we have 2 weddings booked for this year so far. Actually, at the time we're recording this, we have 2 weddings booked. I might have more by then, but we're targeting second half of 2019 for those. We don't need like a crazy large amount of weddings, but we're still like, can we get more than 2? That'd be great. Okay, cool. But the benefit also is I've been really wanting to, I have so many YouTube ideas and so many videos that I've been wanting to make. And so this is just like
perfect
excuse for Matt to make more YouTube videos.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think just knowing your plan for 2019, if you weren't thinking ahead and just kind of, I think a lot of us, when we get going, it's just like, yeah, you'll pay me money. I will literally do anything you want that doesn't, isn't morally incorrect.
Exactly.
And so like being in that position of confidence, like I remember a few years back saying no to the first bride that was wanting to pay me a $5,000+ budget for a film, and was just like, my wife, Heather, I was like, babe, I don't know if I can say no I just feel like it's the wrong fit, but like, I just don't feel right about it. And I ended up saying no to it and booked a wedding somewhere else, like in a much sunnier, beachier place. And just realized, that like, if I stay true, like Nick was saying, to like being very focused on my ideal client and who I'm looking for, and I put myself out there, people that fall in love with my personality are going to want me to be at their wedding, and that's who you're looking for. And so it's really neat to hear from you. Like, I'm really excited to see all the YouTube videos that you come up with, because I mean, now you're basically throwing it out there that we're going to get like 1 to 2 a week. That's what I'm hearing.
I have there's a baby.
Daily vlogs, right? Daily vlogs.
But Rachel's been asking me, she's like, are you going to make YouTube videos about our baby? Is this going to happen? And I'm like, we got to monetize the child. Okay. Right. It's going to be
College
so
has
great.
To get paid for somehow.
Look at this baby here. That's great. Okay. Please like and subscribe.
So one thing that my wife and I have really tried to do in this last year in our business in 2018 was really, taking account for, who the couple is and edit in a style that is still, our Wild Oak film style, but still something that fits more with the couple.
Yeah.
So if it's a more edgy couple, then we're going to do a more edgy video. If it's a more traditional romantic couple, then we're going to do that with the video. And so that's one thing that we really want to get better at in 2019 and stuff. So as for you, for your wedding business, I know you just said you're going to take like a 6-month hiatus or whatever, but what is something that specifically with wedding videos that you are hoping to get better at in 2019?
Ooh, that's good. That's really good. I feel like we've been on this journey for a while now, very similar to what you're saying, of making wedding films specifically for every couple, and infusing our own style into that, but also like making different wedding films depending on what the couple likes and their tastes and their preferences and things like that. And so we're continuing to lean into that, definitely. And also, I feel like in the past year or so, we've realized how much more important personal branding is in terms of creation of films. So, for example, whenever you're, like starting off with filmmaking, you're like, oh man, I just need to book all these weddings. I need to just book more. And so all of your advertising is very like, these are the kind of couples that I'm looking for. If you want your wedding film, this is it. And then like, it's just like, I'll film anything. And then as you get better, you're saying like, okay, these are more the couples that I'm looking for. That's good. What we're almost looking for now, and we've been doing this for a little while, but even pressing more into this now, is we want couples that want us specifically, not just, I want my wedding documented, please come film it, but we like you, Matt and Rachel, so we want you to film our wedding. And if you can get your client there to that point where they want you, no amount and like your personality and your creativity, suddenly like no amount of like swaying of price and other options from other filmmakers is going to be good enough. They're going to pay whatever you're worth, whatever is valuable enough to them to get that. And so we've been trying to like lean into that more. And like, I feel like in the past year, we've made just like a bunch of just like wackier films that are just like almost like kind of crazy in a way, but they're like, they fit our style and they fit who we are as people. And the benefit of that is that we're now booking more couples that see that and want that, which is great.
Yeah. Like up until I think 2 years ago, with Redeemed Productions, like I never put my face on anything. Like I just was, when I first got going, it was like, I just want to create this business that like has a Redeemed Productions in every city. And it's like a wedding, like this huge, and like, it was just, that was the thing. It's like, I didn't want brides to see like a dude. Like I always felt like, well, I didn't go like get this certification. Like I just kind of learned how to do this all on my own. And then, over the last few years, like I've changed from wanting this big company to, we were shooting 70 or more weddings down to 50, down to 30. And now we're down to like 20 to 25. And so like, to me, the couples that are now coming, because we've been putting ourselves on Instagram stories and like I'm making sure that we're showing myself and like my personality and that I love The Office and that I love Taylor Swift and like I don't care if you don't like me because of that. But the people that are drawn to me come in and they're like, oh my goodness, your daughters are so cute, or your family's so sweet. I love your story. I love that you go to church, or I love that you're whatever it is that's you, putting that out there. When couples come in, they already know you. It is so easy to know if that's your couple. And so like, I mean, that is a huge point that you're making there. All right. Okay. Well, the last thing that I really want to jump into, the last part, just about 2019, the things that you're looking forward to, that you're growing in. I know you've talked about the new baby in 2019, more YouTube videos in 2019. Let's talk a little bit more about just like what you're doing with your YouTube, with your music list, with I know that there's some things that you do, education. You've mentioned Venture Workshop. What kinds of things are you doing in 2019 that we can jump on and be a part of?
Yeah, definitely. So 2018 was kind of the building year, and it's going into 2019 in terms of I know that there's a lot of things that I give away for free on YouTube. And there's a lot of things that I like figure out that I'm like, okay, like here's something that I've learned or something like that I can share with other people. At the same time, there still are some ideas that I have that are either like too big for YouTube or too detailed or just not a good fit for that necessarily. So we had this idea earlier this year. We always have ideas for anything, for videos, for anything like that. Everything starts off as just like an idea. And last it was June. I was driving Rachel. We were on our way to Bible study one afternoon, and she was like, "What if we made she said a lot of filmmakers out there are looking for music, like, and they need a way to find songs for wedding films, but that can be like a major time sink there, where you're spending just hours and hours and hours." And then I did a Facebook poll, or I did a Google Forms poll that I posted on Facebook, and I was just like, "Hey, how many I just like answer this quick, like 3 questions," but it was like, "Are you how long do you spend looking for music? What sites do you use looking for music?" And what's crazy is that I had nearly 500 people reply to that, and they were like, "This takes me a long time." Okay, so I hit like a chord here. Like, clearly people are having difficulty like finding music or like looking for it, because you have all these music licensing sites now, which is awesome. You have MusicBed, you have Artlist, you have Soundstripe, you have Premium Beat, you have like Marmoset Music, you have so many options, and they're all adding really great music, and a lot of them are like membership now, so you can download. You have like as much music as you want. Mm-hmm. The struggle is, of course, sorting through all of it, and yes, they make like playlists and things like that, but it still can be quite time consuming to find the right song for wedding film. So Rachel said, "Hey, like, I'm already going through a lot of these websites," which she is. Like, she literally, her workflow is she listens to all of the new music on all of the sites just for us. She has them placed. It's crazy, and she's awesome, and it takes her like several days a month to do it. But the benefit is that then we like are finding like the latest and greatest music. And she was like, "What if we started to share that with people?" And so we were like, "Okay, let's make like an email list that people can sign up for." Currently, it's like $14.99 a month, but it's literally like you sign up and you get 20 songs recommended to you per month, roughly, from all of these different music licensing websites. And the benefit is that then you're not having to look everywhere for music. You're saying, okay, these are the songs that I know are good for wedding films, and we're putting like, we would use this song here, and here's the time code for it, and this is how we would use it. And that's been super helpful to a lot of people, which is great. I'm so glad this has been like helpful. I'm like, okay, good. But like, it still is time consuming for us. So we are like charging for it, but it's not like a crazy amount. I don't think. We asked people like what they would pay, and one guy's like, "I'll pay $200 a month for this." And I'm like, okay, that'd be great if we could just sign you up. But I don't think other people are going to want to pay that. Okay. So we had on like $14.99. But that's like Matt's music list. And so that was like one of the products that we launched last year. And I was so glad to finally like launch something. I have all these like ideas for business stuff, and it's always like, it actually happened. I did something. Okay, great. So that's been really, really awesome.
Where do they find, where can people find that?
Right. Proper promotion and everything. My bad. Matt's music list.
It's your stuff. Promote it however you want to. If you don't want to share the name,
just tell people whatever. Sorry about that. It's called Matt's Music List, and it's mattsmusiclist.com.
Easy enough.
And so if you are a wedding filmmaker that is looking for music and you hate spending many hours trying to find the perfect song, I'm betting that our recommendations would probably help you out significantly. And hey, you try it out, and if you don't like it, you sign up, you get the first our latest email list immediately. If you hate it, you can cancel. We've had multiple people do that. Like, I think we've had like two or three people so far. It's like signed up, and then it's like they got the email, and then 30 minutes later it's like canceled. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I guess you tried it out. All right. So not a big deal, but that's been really great.
I was going to say that's a really good idea, good service. I know that's something I think maybe before I heard it, John and I had kind of mentioned in passing. We should, maybe put some kind of list or something like that. I'm really glad that someone has taken that initiative to help, because there's times it seems like in looking for music, and you guys know this, it's either the first song you listen to is the one, or it's the 100th song. Like, There is no in between. It's either right at the start or too far in.
or you do like I've done and you go all the way through, you find the first song and you think it's the one, but then you listen to 100 others and then you still go back to the one, even though you were like thought that 100th one could have been it also.
Right.
I think too, like, you know, a lot of it now, the most popular songs pop up, you know, on the sites, and for good reason. I mean, a lot of them are amazing, but like what you're saying, how Rachel's going through and listening and going through the deep tracks, you know, and it's like, that's pretty awesome. I mean, you're going to find music on there that's not, you know, just everybody using it. So that's pretty neat. Other things that you're working on. I mean, I know you've got the music list. Are you going to be a part of any workshops this year where people can come learn from you? Sticking to YouTube, any other products that you're looking at launching?
Yeah. I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about venture workshops because nobody's told me anything, which is kind of dangerous. You know, they're just like, hey, yeah, you know, we'll see you next year probably. And I'm like, okay, so as of recording this, I know that there is one happening in 2019. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm allowed to say anything else. Excellent. But stay tuned to ventureworkshop.co for more information whenever that actually launches. So that's happening. I feel like I have this sort of a ticking time bomb in the form of my baby coming in March. So it's like, how much work, how much video stuff, how much stuff can I get done before that happens? And so I have some bigger stuff that I'm working on that I'm hoping to have launched by then and all, but I don't want to talk about it quite yet, because if I do and then I don't release it, then I'm going to be annoyed and people are going to be mad at me.
Understandably.
And so I've run into that. But like, other stuff is being worked on very hard because I'm like, I need to get this stuff out before this baby's born so I actually can like have time to do things, you know?
And so as that stuff does come out, I guess the next question is just kind of, where do people sign up to know what's going on with you? Is YouTube subscribing there the best way? Your website? Where's the best way for people to get in touch and get connected with you?
Yeah, definitely. The main two ways that I'm communicating with people the most right now is either through YouTube. So if you subscribe and you watch the latest videos, like I'm sure I'll make a video about whatever I'm doing. The second way is actually I have an email newsletter that I send out just once a month. Not a big deal. Like, it's once a month. People say you should do more often, but I got a lot of stuff that I'm doing and I barely like, I'm like, oh yeah, the newsletter. And so I like finish it and send it out. Like, I always feel like it's like the last minute. It's like, I say I send it on the 15th of every month, but it's like 11 p.m. on the 15th of every month. I feel like it's sent out, like it's done. Okay, great. There you go. But if you want to keep up with me that way, which that's like just an easy monthly digest of what's going on in Matt Johnson's life, as like detailing like what videos I've made and also like camera news that I found interesting this month, because I love talking about gear and things like that. So I'm like, oh, this is new here. And so I'll post about it. That if you go to go.whoismatt.com, that's to the email newsletter sign up. You can join hundreds of other people. No, there's more than that. I'm just kidding. There's dozens of other people.
Dozens. I do want, before going, because our time is kind of wrapping up, to also just mention how YouTube has now allowed you to be a member, or what is it? They just released this where like people can pay a fee and get a Matt Johnson emoji, bearded guy, and you're longer, your beard gets longer. What the heck is that, and what do you get if you're a part of that?
It was called YouTube sponsorship, and I proceeded to make a whole video calling it sponsorship, and then like the day after I upload that video, YouTube's like, we're changing the name to membership. I'm like, of course you are. Thanks YouTube. Great. But it's basically a easy way to support me. And you can, if you like sign into YouTube and you go to watch any of my videos, or you go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/whoismatt, there is a join button, and it's $5 a month. You can join, and that supports me. What do you get for $5 a month though? Well, like, John was saying, you get really cool emojis whenever, whenever I do live streams. Say what?
Worth it.
Yes. So great. They're pretty fun. I had a designer friend of mine make them, and she's super talented. You also get like a little emoji next to like your, next to your name if you comment on any of my videos. And like it's a little emoji, and like over time it grows a beard. Like it literally is like a progressive emoji over like the months it'll grow a beard.
You're so
but
famous,
the main benefit,
man.
oh gosh, yeah. the beard is famous. I'm just like a part of the beard now. The main benefit though that you get with membership is I've been doing monthly wedding film review live streams. So once per month, I announce it like a week beforehand. But once a month, I am hosting. I say that I'm trying to hit like a 2-hour target, but I always end up going like 3 hours. Like every time that I do it, it's Rachel's like dying in the background. I'm like, I have to talk to people. But basically, you can submit a wedding film that you would like me to review, and I'll review it on a live stream. So I'll be helpful. I'll be encouraging. I'll be constructive. But just like a lot of my viewers are people that are just starting out in wedding filmmaking, or they've been doing it for a while. But one thing that I found really helpful when I was starting out in filmmaking is it's hard to get good feedback and constructive feedback from people. It's very easy, you know, you post a video and like your friends and family are like, it looks great, it's beautiful. And you're like, yeah, but how can I get better? Mm-hmm. And nobody's telling you that because they don't know. They don't know how because they're not filmmakers. So I'm like, okay, if I can at least help people in this way and say like, hey, here's the changes that I would consider making. Here's things that you're doing well. Here's things you could improve on. Completely with the caveat that this is just me. It's just my opinion. I am by no means perfect or super talented. I've just been doing this for like 8-9 years now. So like I have some semblance of an idea of what looks good. But that's been super helpful. And I've had like 100 to 200 people like every month, like tuning in for like a 3-hour live stream, which is great. And, that's been a lot of fun. And so I'm prioritizing reviewing wedding films from people that are channel members. So if you're not a member, I might still get to you, but it happens that a lot of people have signed up for membership and then I haven't had a chance to get to some of the non-members. So if you want that, that's a good way to do it.
I will say too, I've jumped on and like watched you watch wedding films, and it really does help. I mean, and I think that's one thing too, just to point out to the listeners, is like having a buddy, having somebody watching your films. I know that like Nick will send me a film and say, what do you think? And I'll say, oh, this is good, but the audio is hitting really loud over here on my speakers. But just having that, you know, I mean, obviously as wedding filmmakers, we don't want to watch just a ton of wedding films over and over. I mean, they all start to kind of, you know, like blend, and you're just like, I don't want to watch someone else's wedding film. I just want mine to be really good. And so like, member or not, jumping on to those live, you know, streams that you're doing, you know, just getting that feedback. And, you know, it's like, I'm still 10 years in and like wanting people to give me honest feedback. I might have to submit one for you to rip apart one day. No.
Yeah, and I've had people comment and they're like, thank you so much. This was so worth it or something like that. I'm like, okay, good. Like, so it's been a lot of fun because, I mean, I enjoy doing it. So it's cool.
Yeah, I've had, whenever a long time ago, Rob Adams had a review of, you know, he would like watch your video, and I submitted one of mine and he watched it. And like the first thing that he said, well, this is before my wife did my color, he was like, why is everything purple? Like, like that was the first thing out of his mouth. And so, I mean, criticism, again, is one of those things that's super scary because it's so personal for us. Mm-hmm. But I think that that's really the only way that you're going to get better, is having people review your work and telling you what they would do to make it better. And it's scary, but it will improve you in the long run. So that's a really great thing that you're offering to the community.
That is such a Rob Adams thing too. Like, why is this purple? I can like in his voice, I can like hear him saying that too. I'm like, yep, that's Rob right there. Yes.
Matt, thank you so much for joining our podcast today. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, so glad to be here. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, to all of you listening, wherever you're listening, be sure to rate and review us on iTunes, or follow us and subscribe to us on YouTube, you know, wherever. Any type of rating or reviewing really helps it so that other people find us. Again, thanks so much to Matt for coming on. Thank you for listening. And until next time, see ya.
See ya. Nailed it.